So, welcome to today's live episode of Everyday Alex. It's always odd referring to yourself in third person. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about the healing power of presence and focus. One of the things that I think is probably happening for a lot of people at the moment is there's such a sense of the sort of enormous overwhelm of sort of what's been happening in the world over the last few weeks. And I think one of the impacts of that overwhelm is it makes it difficult to focus or to concentrate on any particular task of something that we're trying to do. So we sort of find ourselves drifting from sort of one thing to the next thing, to watching a TV show, to trying to do those of you that are homeschooling kids, trying to master the art of maths or physics or whatever it might be at this point. But I think it can sometimes be challenging especially when we're in a trauma response, and we've sort of gone into a freeze response, and then we're sort of trying to come out of that and trying to sort of focus and be productive to get things done. It's hard to focus. Part of the impact of that is we then sort of feel that sense of feeling unsatisfied, like the sense that we're not really progressing, we're not moving forwards. And I'm sort of partly speaking from personal experience. I've been managing a lot over the last week or two, partly moving the family temporarily, but also various things with work, with how to best sort of steer the ship, as it were, and navigate through some of the things that are happening. And this week I was supposed to be on a writing week. So I was supposed to be out of London in the sort of usual place that I go to, and obviously wasn't able to do that. And instead of sort of here with family and sort of kids running around. And I just sort of noticed that, well, firstly, I hadn't had the focus and the time because I'd been dealing with other things. But just finally this afternoon, felt that I'd kind of broken the back of all of those things that needed to be attended to, and managed to also organize the study room that I'm using here, and just managed to get my head down and actually do some writing, or actually some editing as it was today, and a bit of reworking. And what I notice is on the other side of that, just a sense of sort of calmness, a sense of clarity, a sense of the inherent satisfaction from being productive and from actually feeling like sort of achieving something and getting something done. And what it sort of made me realize to put our attention singularly on a particular thing that we're doing. And like I've said in other videos, that disconnect feeds disconnect, and connection feeds connection. So the more disconnected we get, the more that we go into a sort of freeze response or a trauma response, the more we tend to choose habits and kind of choices that perpetuate being in that response. So we're more likely to eat crap food. We're more likely to watch kind of mind-numbing TV, and not in a way where we're enjoying something and paying attention to something, but we're sort of our minds elsewhere, and we're sort of half giving something our attention. The more we do that, the more sort of disconnected we get, the more we try to get connection by doing things that tend to disconnect us more. Equally, connection feeds connection. So the more that we are able to be present, the more we're able to be in our body or in a calm, healing state, the more likely we are to choose more habits and behaviors and choices that will support continuing being in that state. And when we sort of drift and we don't really have focus, and we're not really productive in terms of what we're doing, it's kind of like eating fast food, or kind of kind of like negative nutrition, where you're sort of full but you're unsatisfied. Like it's almost going to take more energy to digest what it is that you've eaten than actually you're being given by the food that you're getting. And there's something about that that's just like, it's unfulfilling, it's unnurturing, it's unnourishing. And I suppose my invitation really is, if you've been finding over the last few weeks that you've been distracted, you've been unable to focus, you've just been kind of constantly pulled into the news cycle and needing to always be updated with the latest bulletin, that I've talked in some of the previous videos over the last week or so about the importance of calming the mind, the importance of humor. And today, really, what I wanted to talk about is the importance of having some focus and having somewhere to put your mind and to put your attention in a way that feels productive, in a way that it feels like you're progressing in terms of what you're doing. And I don't mean in an achievering way. I don't mean in a sort of avoid and distract and sort of just go really fast so you don't feel your feelings. I actually mean in the opposite sort of way. I mean using what you're doing as a sort of source of meditation for your mind. You're actually giving your mind something to pay attention to in a way that actually you want to be calming your system. So calming your body, calming your nervous system, because you've got to focus. Like your activity that you're doing is like a source of meditation. And that does take a certain level of self-awareness, that you're not going into a kind of disconnect and a speed up. So it's sort of staying in touch with your breath. It's staying in touch with, like, what does your nervous system feel like? Are you running too fast? Are you racing towards the achievement, like you're racing towards the deadline? Or are you actually just staying present with what's happening and what's there in that moment? And discipline and focus, let me rephrase that. Focus requires discipline. It requires the ability to hold our attention. Just like meditation done right is not just a kind of zoning out and sort of and disconnect. It's an active focus on holding our attention, and it can be quite draining sometimes. And obviously, I'm not talking about pushing through and just going into like, right, I'm going to force this. But just like on the healing path, you can't push your way to recovery, but you also can't just do nothing and just rest your way to recovery. There's a sort of middle ground of staying engaged and listening to your body. The same is true here in terms of focus, that you can have a discipline, but do it in a way that you stay connected with your breath, with your body, with your emotions. And I think that can serve its own benefit in terms of feeling more satisfied and more nurtured, and a sense that there's a kind of outcome, that you're not just surviving through each day, but you're in a sense you're thriving. That you have a sense of taking the lessons and taking the value from this experience and what's happening. So I'd be curious to hear in the comments about what are some of the things that you find a helpful source of focus or attention, and also what helps you to focus and to bring your attention. It might be writing, it might be studying, it might be elements of work that you're doing, might be doing your personal finances, it could be anything. But what do you notice helps you to bring your attention to a specific task that becomes almost like a meditative quality to activity? I mean, in a sense, really what we're talking about here is, how do you do from a place of being? How do you achieve things from a perspective and from a place of being in a healing state? And for a lot of people that have had kind of unhealthy achiever patterns, this is part of the resolution of that pattern as well. It's how do you be productive? How do you do and achieve, but do it from a healthy place, from a sustainable place? So Sarah on YouTube says, I've been practicing a piece on the piano and then recording it, and I can't read the final word because where my phone is. Let me try and read it. And said it's my partner. Yeah. So music is a great way. I've mentioned in other videos that I have a guitar in my home office and in my office at Optimum Health Clinic. I have it next to me. I bring it when I go away. When I go away writing. and not because I'm particularly good at the guitar these days. I just like the experience of kind of connecting and playing and just kind of fiddling around. Judith says painting. Matilda Joy Sticks says, totally agree with this. Things changed for me when I decided to stop struggling. Yeah, sometimes the more we struggle and get frustrated, we sort of feel like we're doing in the struggle, like it feels productive because there's lots of frustration and energy that's going into that. But actually, doing less and having a clear focus is a much more productive way of coming at it. Zoe on Instagram says yoga, meditation, adult coloring books, reading, journaling all help me focus. Yeah, I think for many people, things like painting and art and that sort of thing, as Judith on YouTube says, painting can be great ways of connecting. If you're anything like me, anything to do with drawing and art seems to have the opposite effect. I'm trying to sketch out some diagrams for the book that I'm working on, and you probably can't see this on the camera, but yeah, it's not my greatest source of creativity. Juliet says, yes, I also find writing songs help me to switch off. There's something healing about doing something with your hands. Yeah, I think that's right, Juliet. I think there's something about using the body that's really helpful. Like if it's just, strumming strings on a guitar, or it's cooking, or it's going for a gentle walk, or it's a more vigorous form of exercise if you've got the capacity towards that. Sometimes something as simple as obviously it's not that warm in the UK at the moment, but walking barefoot in grass can be a great way of just grounding and just sort of feeling literally the earth under our feet, and using that as a sort of way to feel more into the body. So yeah, my sort of invitation to you guys today is have a look at some of the possible drawings. I'm looking at my drawings. I was reading Eleanor's nice drawings, Alex. Just being too kind there. I have talents in the world. It's not one of them. But yeah, what are some of the possible projects or places that you could choose to put some focus, rather than having it's almost like rather than having the contents of your mind being dictated by the news cycle and the things happening in the world outside. It's choosing to take back, not necessarily quite control, but choosing to take back the focus of your mind, and using projects, things that need to be done anyway, or things that you're doing for pleasure, as a source of meditation, as a source of presence, as a way of being more connected and being more in the moment. So I hope that was helpful. If you didn't already, please do check out yesterday's episode of In Therapy with, it's very odd saying my In Therapy with Alex Howard. The reason why we have the with Alex Howard is In Therapy is being used in other places, so we just thought in the Google search it's better to have the Alex Howard there. But it does sound odd when you talk about yourself in third person. But the In Therapy documentary series, do check out yesterday's episode. It's the first episode with Sally, who we're going to be following for a few episodes now. And Sally video diaried her experience on the 90-day program. And I think it's a great opportunity to sort of see one person's experience of going through the first 3 days of that program. And then next week, we'll see the first part of my first session with Sally. And then we'll have the second part of that first session the following week, I think is currently the plan. But do check that out if you haven't already. And I think we'll do another live tomorrow. So I think tomorrow and Friday is the plan, to do 6 o'clock UK time. That's 10 a.m. West Coast time in the US. And I guess that's 1 p.m. East Coast time in the US. So yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for the comments. I really like having people live. So thank you for joining me. And I look forward to talking with you guys tomorrow.